Okay, it says it's live, so you're going to try and speaking in there?
Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou. Kia ora. How you going, Brett?
Well, you're going to keep...
How you going?
You have to kind of... Yeah,
I don't talk continuously. You're better at continuously talking than I am. I don't really continuously splat out shit.
Don't say that at the very beginning of it, okay?
Stuff.
You can't say any of those sorts of words. YouTube doesn't like that stuff, man. I get in trouble.
Okay.
Particularly in the first 8 to 15 seconds.
Right.
No, that just demonetizes.
We've got a game here.
And
there's a knight and a skull and a flower.
No, let's forget about that. Like, so this is the poll that I've put together.
This was a great idea until it was bad.
Yeah. So this is the poll.
Would you like some fun and funny role-playing game stories today? Yes. I mean, I would.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's just press the button.
Yep.
And we'll see if people want that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then...
And then... And then we put a link.
Put a link into your channel.
Yep, I added another car yesterday.
Did you? Yes, I saw that. I watched it. And commented.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And now I think we're all good. Well, we should be all good.
We should be all good.
Okay, you can unplug me, man.
Okay.
Unplug me. And I will take those things and put them over here. And then you can introduce ours to the
welcome to How to RPG. Hope everyone's having a good morning. I'm David Bailey. I'm back again. And Fred keeps pointing to the microphone. I'm here to do some painting. And I'm going to be painting these snow golem things. And we'll see where we go with it. He looks a bit snowy. He's a bit colourful, a bit snowy. Snowy colourful. We'll see what happens. And we'll talk about some role-playing game stories, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I would imagine that there's probably nobody watching, because everybody is currently watching live streams of the current dramas right now.
What current dramas?
Something
else happened.
Wizards of the Coast were going to do an announcement, a live stream. Then they cancelled the live stream. Then they shut down their the share trading for their company, for Hasbro and for Wizards of the Coast. They just shut down the share. They just closed the doors. No shares going in, no shares going out. Early, of course, because they were worried about the exodus. They are shutting down the D&D Beyond subscription stuff as well. So you can't unsubscribe if you've got a subscription with them.
Oh, that should be illegal.
It should be illegal.
That should be illegal.
And so they are
going to go down. That's the kind of thing that makes you go down. You don't do that.
Yeah, well, the reality is they have done that.
Yeah, but you don't.
So
they've done the don't do.
They have done the don't do. So so we're going to do happy stories today. I don't really want to talk about the open game license or take the piss out of Dungeons and Donuts. What I want to do is I want to talk about some fun stories while David paints the snow golem.
Okay.
Okay. So I thought that would be the way to go. So 100% yes. I don't know how many people have responded to the poll, but it doesn't.
I said yes. Maybe it just picked it up naturally.
Oh, did you do that with your phone?
No, I just said it out loud.
Oh, okay. Well,
and I think it just picked it up.
You reckon from your voice?
Yeah, from my voice.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
I just like my voice.
It could have. So the weather has been a bit weird here, so my voice is kind of getting a bit crackly and a bit gurgly.
Well, you can't tell whether it's hot or cold.
Well, that's true. And you got your fan going, so
that makes it more interesting.
It does make it more interesting, but it will help dry out the miniatures, right?
It will help keep us cool as well if it gets hot.
Yeah. So, I don't know if you were part of these games or not, David, but I have a number of different stories to tell you that have occurred with me. Now,
so I can just put my 2 cents in if I have been involved in it.
That's right. You can put your 2 cents in.
Otherwise, I'll just listen to some cool stories.
That's right. I'll just tell some...
And put some other 2 cents in there for laughies.
Yeah, and if there's a story that I tell that you've heard before, you just tell me that, Fred, I've heard this story before. Can you tell us a new story? Yeah. I will try. I was sitting here as everything was going really strange on YouTube, and I was like, I'm having a brain fart moment. You know, when something comes out but nothing useful. Hi, Jasper. How's it going? What is this? Luke tried to unsubscribe to his D&D Beyond account on his live stream this morning, and it wouldn't let him. Yeah, that's been happening to a few of the people who are subscribed to my channel. It's been happening to a lot of people. Some people were successful, some people unsuccessful. My suggestion is if you can't unsubscribe on their website, send them an email. And I probably should share you their phone number and their email. And I wish I could remember who had provided the information. I'm making a comic book about my favourite Dungeons and Donuts characters.
That's cool.
Sounds fun. Sounds fun. So maybe I should actually. I wonder if I should cut it. Can I cut and paste the information from that person's thing and drop it into this chat? Maybe I'll do that later on near the end. We'll see how we go. So first story. I had been roped into the Dungeons and Donuts next playtest, and wound up doing the beta test with all the other public playtesters, and then I wound up doing the alpha playtest. We were asked to playtest a whole lot of monsters, and I decided to run the Isle of Dread as my test adventure because it had lots of different creatures in it, and so it was probably the easiest way to sort of do that. I had limited time. Most of us didn't. It's not like we just sat there and just played through every single monster. It didn't work that way. And so in the Isle of Dread, and my group had decided that they were animal wranglers for a circus, and they had to actually bring animals back to the circus for their zoo so that they could be put on display. So they couldn't kill them. They had to actually, it's not like a taxidermy service or anything like that. Right? They had to bring them back alive. Yeah, so they had to figure out how to capture these things. And one of the things they decided is they came across a rock egg in a nest. And they were like, well, we can't possibly capture a giant rock. That's like the big bird with wings. That's very, very large from mythology. But if we have an egg, we can take the egg back to the ship, and then we can hatch it out and then have ourselves a baby rock that we can put in the zoo. I'm aware that this sounds ridiculous and very impractical. Okay, but that's not what my players were thinking at the time. And so what we did is they actually had to deal with the rock. I actually had the rock attack them. Baby rock was not coming out. It's still in the egg, and Mummy.
Was it attacking them from the egg?
No, Mummy showed up. The big full grown thing. They were like level 5 or I think they were level 5 or 6. I can't remember. I think they were about level 5. And I had a choice. I could have it fly around and drop boulders on them, or just pick them up and drop them off the side of the mountain, killing them instantly. Okay? If I dropped a boulder from the height that I had planned to, they would be killed instantly. So it wouldn't have been it would be a one-sided sort of situation.
Yeah.
So I did actually land the rock, because when they gave us the monster, they didn't tell us what the challenge rating was. So what I did is I just assumed, well, let's just see what happens. That saying, you have to break a few eggs to make an omelette.
Yep.
So I was like, that was my approach. It's like, I'm play testing, let's just see what happens. So they decided they fought the rock, and if you put a rock on the ground with 5th level characters, and there's between 6 and 7 players, it'll die.
Yep.
It can't keep up with that. It doesn't matter how much damage you think you can put out. Yep. They managed to cope with it. And like between paladins and clerics, they were all right.
Yep.
So they finally disposed of Mummy, and then it was like, okay, we're going to transport the egg down the mountainside. And I said, well, like how? Oh, we're going to use a wagon. I was like, did you bring a wagon? No, we didn't bring a wagon. That's right, we didn't bring a wagon. So they're like, okay, so how do we get the thing down the mountain? I said, well, that's your problem, not mine. Don't ask me. You got to figure that one out. So they decided they would roll it down the mountain. And I said, well, okay, that's fine, but you're going to have to control the roll, otherwise it's just going to go splat and you're going to wind up with a broken egg, right? Mm. And like, okay. And they said, so how hard is this going to be? How big is it? I said, it's large size. It's about 10 foot by 10 footish, or 10 to 7 foot. It's a very large egg, right? So it's bigger than you are.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh dear. So how do we get it down there? So they went through the rigmarole. And at that time, they actually had with them some porters. So they used their porters, their 12 porters. The players had to try to figure out how to get it down the hill. And what do you know? They got it quite a good distance down the mountainside before they lost control of it, and something attacked them while they were journeying down there. Let go of the egg and splat. No more rock egg. So it didn't make it to the boat, unfortunately. And inside was an undeveloped egg. So it wasn't a fully developed baby rock at this point. So they didn't get their rock.
So they killed the mama for no reason.
Yes.
And they killed the baby.
That's right. And I don't think it's not like they had sort of gone up the mountain and expected to find a rock there. But like it's like, oh, how practical is it to take this back? And I did mention to them, how are you supposed to cage an adult rock or even a baby rock? Eventually it's going to start flying around. Did you even think and consider how viable is it to stick it in a zoo? And I was like, well, it's a fantasy adventure, Fred. Anything can be done. I said, anything, you can try anything. Doesn't mean anything can be done. You can try anything. How's it going, Overboard? Overboard is a patron and also a moderator. He also has a YouTube channel on miniatures and terrain. I've never asked my players if they would love to play a fun campaign that I will go to kill it instantly. Yeah. So I mean, hence why the Mama Rock was on the ground, and also too, where do you hide on a mountainside when there's a giant bird? It's a very difficult situation, frankly. So that was the egg. Didn't make it down the mountainside. Another situation, and same campaign, same sort of situation, same people. And what had happened is they had decided that since they had cages that they needed to be carried to put animals in, and they were going into the island centre to find these creatures and these beasts and these animals, that they would need to have porters to carry equipment and cages and various things. And I said, well, that makes a lot of sense. And they said, we want 12 porters. And I said, okay. And they asked me how much, so I determined how much it would cost to have 12 porters. And then they said, what's the name of the porters? And then I had this ongoing sort of chant, name the porters, name the porters. And they expected me to name every single porter. 12 porters, I had to give them all a name. You can trust me, I stuck with about 4 letters for every name. There was definitely a Bob, Sally, John sort of going on there. Okay, so name all these porters. Not only was there the chant that I had to name them, I had no choice but to name all 12 porters because some players insisted that they would refuse to play the game if I did not name every single one of them, and also keep track of everything that ever happened to them during the campaign. This is like a power play between my players and me, where they're trying to see if they can break me. Do you know what I mean? It's quite deliberate. Certainly funny, but also
stupid.
A logistic nightmare. So
Trying to break Fred. That's funny.
That's often what tends to wound up happening. So I looked at the situation, and one of the players had said, look, if you do this to Fred, all Fred's going to do is kill every single porter when he gets a chance. And I sat there, and they looked at me, and I said, absolutely. And they said, well, we're going to do everything to make sure they don't get hurt. So we're not going to take them into combat. We're going to keep them, about 100 feet behind us. So if we bump into anything dangerous, that they don't wind up in the battle as well. Bloody, 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 blah. It took me a long time to kill every single one of those porters because the logistics of actually, the kind of logistics they wanted me to actually do, because they wouldn't do it themselves. They just wanted me to do it all. So
lazy.
Yeah, it took a long time, but I did eventually manage to kill every single one of them. So those porters died and their characters did not. If anything, it was like they were carrying a great huge line of red shirts from Star Trek. Maybe not my best moment, but I can assure you that the players, they did deserve that.
Yeah.
And a few of them knew it. In fact, most of them did.
Yeah.
So that was that's my other story. So whenever you get players who say, I want to have followers or henchmen and so forth, but we don't want to keep track of everything. We want you to keep track of everything. And then, and also they're going to sort of insist on, you naming everybody in those. Like, no, get the players to do some of that for you because it's too much. And all you'll wind up doing is getting frustrated and annoyed, and of course you wind up resorting to probably the sort of thing that I did, which is they all must die. every single one of them. So that was my next story. I don't know if you were part of this or not, dude. Jub Jub the old troll. Were you part of that when I started doing that?
I'm not sure.
Jub Jub the old troll. I have told the story before. I don't know if anybody knows the story, but I will tell it and I'll see if anybody remembers it. What do we got here, Jasper? I almost TPK'd my party with a fire geyser. Oh, okay. Oh, interesting. They rolled really bad. It is. See, this is the thing. Dungeons and Donuts is not a game of skill. A lot of role-play games that have dice aren't games of skill. They are just games of probability and gambling to a large extent. You know, there might be some aspect of skill there, but it's like saying, there's an aspect of skill to playing blackjack or poker. You know, there's still a random element where skill isn't. It's not like playing chess where the rules are always the same. There's nothing random at all going on here. Yeah. Okay, the story of Jub Jub, the old troll. I was running through an adventure called the Troll Warren, I think it was. It was basic. I can't remember exactly the name. It was a 4E adventure, and I was running this well before I was doing play testing for Dungeons and Donuts Next. And so Jub Jub was my attempt to try to make an NPC that they would like to have actually travel with them. And it was an old troll who had a walker. He had his regeneration had stopped working properly. I named him Jub Jub because of Jar Jar Binks. It had to be that name. Okay, so don't judge me. Don't judge me. Okay, it was deliberate on my part. I knew of that of Jar Jar Binks and people's opinion of Jar Jar Binks. So I was like, I got to put it there. And then I also made sure he had no teeth. All his teeth has fallen out. He couldn't eat meat anymore. He was a vegetarian. He had to have mushy foods. He could barely see properly. And I actually talked. I can't do it now, but I actually talked as if I had no teeth. It's very difficult to do that. Nowadays, I struggle, and I sort of drown in my own hay fever nowadays. So it's a bit difficult, and the voice is getting older and older. So yeah. They meet this troll. Obviously not a threat. They decided not to kill Jub Jub and had a talk with him, and he explained a lot of stuff. The other trolls didn't really like him that much, and so they decided, would you believe it, that they liked the character so much and the way that it was being played and the fact that it was just so vulnerable that Jub Jub should join the party. So Jub Jub joined the party with them, but he's got a walker. And every time they had to climb up a cliff, they had to actually attach ropes, and they all had to go up, almost all of them had to go to the top and haul him up because he was so heavy, along with his walker. Because have I watched Vox Machina? Yeah, I have. A long time ago. I watched it ages ago. And then...
What is it?
It's Critical Role.
Oh,
yeah, it's Critical Role, yeah. Yeah, I have, but I did all this well before they existed. So, yeah, they didn't exist when I was doing this sort of thing. And then, this is 4E. This is well before things like the YouTube stuff was a big deal for role-playing games at all. You know, it was very, very infantile. So they not only had to get them up cliff faces and over streams in the cave that they were exploring, making their way, having to fight off trolls. Jub Jub was absolutely useless in combat. They had to keep him at the back so he didn't get injured. And they finally faced the big king troll. Ooh, you look very cool that way.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I can't see.
That's right. You get in there, man. You get in there. I'll tell you if your head's in the way.
Okay.
I'm sure we're going to find out very shortly if your head is in the way and the camera can't see the miniature because you're in the way. But yeah, apparently right now you seem to be good. But then of course we're getting this delay stream. So that's all right. Just keep doing your thing, and I'll let you know if it's a problem, and then I'll rip around the other side. So back to Jub Jub. So they faced off against the king. So I can see your head just slightly. So just move slightly back out of the center of this back. So just keep your distance. No, you keep.
I can't because it's so magnified. I have to.
No. Just move the miniature back a bit. You can move the miniature back. It's pretty much in the center. You can move it a little bit further back, and that'll mean that you won't have to worry about the. Yeah. So let me just get you positioned. No. Don't worry. I'm not finished with Jub Jub. So get yourself in position, and then see that's good. You still can't see the your glasses, but can you see properly? You close enough?
I am now. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you're in the zone, mate. You're in the zone.
Okay.
Okay. Right. So back to Jub Jub. So Jub Jub was beloved by the party, and then some of the party members, after fighting off the king, the king of trolls, and dealing with some of the situations in here. Some of them started to get suspicious of Jub Jub, and they.
Oh, okay.
I don't know why that's happened, but apparently it did. If you can move slightly this way, yeah. And the end result is some of them were and thought that basically Jub Jub might be the mastermind of everything going on here, and that he was actually tricking them. He wasn't. He was never designed to be that. He was always designed by me to be just the most pitiful monster you could possibly come across, just to see what they would do, and to also be potentially a recurring NPC. I didn't expect them to have him join the party though,
Yeah.
but he was all for it because it's much easier if somebody collects your food for you and can mush it up for you. It's a bit hard if you've got a walker and you can barely see what you're doing.
Yeah, true.
So yeah, that's one of those times. So did they actually kill Jub Jub? No, they didn't. But there was a bit of like would you call it a mutiny? There was a number of individuals within the group that were fighting amongst themselves about the decision about should Jub Jub die or should Jub Jub be left alone in the caves to just fend for himself, and others who's like, no, he stays with the party, I love him so much, he's so good, he's so much fun, we want to keep him. And everybody's like no, he's not that good, man, we got to get him up these cliff faces, he can't get across streams, he's got this walker, he can barely see. So yeah.
Sounds like me.
Yeah, so the old troll. Trust me, if you ever decide you want to use that idea in your game, you go for it. I don't mind in the slightest. Okay. Now I hope I have made sure that my the camera is nice and focused, but I think it is, isn't it?
I'm going to go get my glasses.
You're going to get your glasses?
Yeah.
All right, so will you go...
It's also payback.
It's payback. So
you ditched me, I'm ditching you.
I see. Okay.
I don't know why I forgot my glasses. It's a stupid stuff.
So I'm going to switch...
So Fred's now going to paint.
Fred is going to switch to the other camera while David is away. And also try to not to choke as he does this. And I will also provide you with a link to Wizards of the Coast or Hasbro if I can, so that you can hunt them down and get your subscription to D&D Beyond cancelled if you would like to try and get that done. If you're having trouble with that, if you need to make a statement, or if you don't want to worry about that, that's cool too. Apparently people have been crashing everything. You might as well crash their phone line as well. So let me just bear with me. We might be a bit longer today. We'll see. It might be a little bit longer than just an hour, just for the sake of like making sure everything's going to work properly. Okay. So part of my problem is going to be that I'm going to have to move stuff around a little bit. Maybe I shouldn't bother doing that, because that's going to be just too much hassle for me. So I won't do that. Instead, I will make sure I'm focused. So if you're wondering where the meowing noise is coming from, that is my niece, who's pretending to be a cat. Apparently a cat in agony. Alright. Okay. Let's switch over while we wait for David, and I will just chat. So you're going to see I've not got my pen, my thing in the normal place that I would have. So while we're waiting for him, I would tell another story to you people, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to find you the appropriate information that will allow you to actually contact Wizards of the Coast and communicate anything that you might need to say to them. How does that sound? So right now I'm just scrolling through my feed. I remember one of the channels had actually posted up all the information in their community tab on how to contact them. Their fax number, their phone number, their email address for Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro. Very nice of them. I'm just scrolling. Just bear with me. It might take me just a little while just to figure out which channel. There are so many channels. Here we go. The OG GM's Adventure. Subscribe to these people because apparently they have actually got it's DM James Plays OSR. He shared this thing. So what I'll do, let me just, instead of trying to type it all out, which will just take me forever, I'm going to find you and your link, copy and paste it into the chat, because I want to be helpful, people. Let's be honest. Reaching out to Hasbro, give them a big hug, things like that. So now I just know how to find where's DM James. DM, don't go away. There he is. I found the link, found the community tab, and there's the information. So for those of you who want to reach out and say, hi Wizards of the Coast, how are you doing, Hasbro? This is the Hasbro the Hasbro line. Let's give you the Hasbro line, shall we? Now paste it. It's too much information, so I can only give you so much. So what I will do is I'll give you it in sections. Okay. This is going to have to be broken up into. So what we'll do is we'll break it up into the phone number. There's two phone numbers, and then we've got another thing that's revolving around the email. So I'll take the email out for now. How's that sound? We'll take out the email for now. I'll post that so that you know what it is. There we go. There's the information. And now I will cut and paste and put in the email address as a separate thing. For those of you who would like that, there we go. I feel like I've done a community service. I'm sure you can find that information fairly easy. I don't think it'll be that difficult. There we go. There's Hasbro brand PR. There's all the information there. I don't know how people have been doing, but I'm going to also probably take this, since it seems like a fun thing to do. And I'm all about fun, right? I'm all about the fun. Let's stick that up on my community tab and see how that works out. Oh, la 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 la. There we go. I think we've got it all there. That's all the information. I'll put that up. Just trying to be helpful. Yeah, there we go. It's done. You're welcome. So for those of you who have been trying to unsubscribe to your D&D Beyond subscription, I'm not talking about, you're not trying to lose all your books, or don't cancel your account because you lose all of your digital access to your books and stuff and anything you've purchased, right? And you shouldn't actually lose the subscription period that you've already paid for, but it won't renew. So you need to turn off the renew option. But so by cancelling and so it won't renew, that's probably important if you're going to do this sort of thing. So try emailing Wizards of the Coast or D&D Beyond. Dave is back on. Yeah, Dave has actually arrived. So I'm going to switch back to my other camera so that you can actually see what's going on. And just a community announcement and a little bit of help just to make sure people can find the information they need. Ha ha ha. Here we go. It's all yours too.
Thanks.
I'll get out of
Oh, look at that. I can see again.
Right. Okay, so now that once you've got yourself in position, you've got your eyes and your head and your arms in the right place, I'll know where you are, you can see where it is, and I'll switch over so we can see what's going on in the chat. Good?
Yep.
Alright, sweet as. We're all good.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Back to story time. Hello, how's it going? How's it going, Mum? So art teacher online is my mum. For those of you who don't know, that's Mum. Okay.
That's why you always be nice to your neighbours.
That's right, because they might actually be
Your mum.
Your mum. And your brother. And your other brother.
Yeah.
And your sister.
Yeah.
And your brother-in-law. And your niece.
Okay, I'm feeling a bit sick.
And maybe another sister in the past.
No more.
Or maybe two sisters.
No, so
And more another brother-in-law. Yeah, there was a
it's a
time.
bit of a torture.
Mate, there was a lot of people in my family living in this place at one point. Mate, did our family, like, almost just everybody lived in Helensville? Almost everybody.
They did, yeah.
Yeah, it was a strange time. Good and bad. Very easy if we want to get together. Like, you know, getting together to have a barbecue, not a problem.
Except when one of them moves to Raglan.
Oh, that's right. You guys moved to Raglan, but
Yeah.
I think a lot of us were quite happy that you were, because you got to surf so much. Anyway,
Yes, I did.
back to the stories. I don't know if you remember this story, or if even if you were part of the story. I've been telling a lot of stories you're not involved with, and that was Gary the Gazebo. I've told the story before. So I'm running through an old adventure that Gary Gygax had created called Beyond the Magic Mirror, which was based off Alice in Wonderland. Pretty much tried to just port it over. You keep doing your thing, dude. You, by all means, comment. I have no problems.
So this one Beyond the Looking Glass, yeah.
Yeah, that's right, exactly. And,
Yeah.
and so I was running that adventure, which is very strange. It's utterly bizarre. It's quite fantastical. And
Sounds right.
yeah, so I decided I was going to add a gazebo into the adventure because it seemed suitable. Now there's a, it's like an urban myth, or a Dungeons and Donuts story that's been floating around the community and the internet for years, and that's Eric and the gazebo. And basically Eric comes across a gazebo, and he thinks it's a monster. He doesn't know what a gazebo is, and he says, I attack it. And of course the dungeon master says it's a gazebo. You know, so he asks lots of questions about the gazebo, and the DM just doesn't understand why he can't figure out what a gazebo is. So he tries to attack the thing. Eventually the dungeon master gets so frustrated with him as he's trying to, you know, communicate, like, you know, it's a gazebo, it's not a monster. So he actually has the gazebo attack him. So I decided to make a gazebo called Gary the Gazebo.
Yep.
I stuck him in my game, and they came across Gary the Gazebo, and Gary the Gazebo was quite frightening because he was currently in battle. The first thing they saw was basically they actually bumped to it, and to it discovered that it had eyeballs. It was floating. I made it a mimic as well. It was like a beholder, mimic, gazebo all combined in one, and it was terrifying. And they had to run away because it just munched them. You know, there are always people in the group, right, that like to talk to something,
Yeah.
and others who just like to attack. But this was a very Gary was quite paranoid, you know, because beholder, mimic. They watched from a distance as Gary the Gazebo incinerated a giant Trent
Wow.
and some awakened trees, and they're like, oh no, and I thought they would just leave Gary the Gazebo after that. Didn't think anything more of it. I just thought it would be a fun surprise wacky monster to include. One of my players did not think that way. No, and he's the one who usually would bring one beer with him. He decided he had a plan. I didn't know what his plan was. He went back with a white flag truce of, you know, let us talk, and then proceeded to try to seduce Gary the Gazebo. Brought flowers and chocolates. Yes, I know what you're thinking. Flowers and chocolates, and proceeded to try to seduce Gary the Gazebo. Yes, he was playing a male character, so this has got a lot of implications. Okay, just stay with me, people. So he then decided he would have dinner. Made a dinner for him and Gary, and they had that on his deck, and then he slept with him, and then he decided, asked Gary if he wanted a massage. So he gave Gary a massage and massaged oil into his wood. And then while he was sleeping, he burnt Gary alive because of all the oil that had been soaking into Gary the gazebo's wood. He burnt quite quickly. So, yeah, that's what one of my players did. Are you all right, David?
Gross, man. I was not part of that game, that's for sure.
It was pretty funny though. It was pretty funny. Okay, so I suppose I should tell some stories. Do you remember any of the stories from the game that I ran with you? Because right now I can't remember too many of them.
I'm trying to think of. So things we had. How many players? Who did we have? We had Rosie, Sam, and me were most of the main characters most of the time.
Well, I could tell the story of the Wizard of Oz. Do you remember when I played out the Wizard of Oz, basically?
Yes.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay. So imagine that Fred is trying to run an episodic adventure. So each adventure is supposed to be related to a specific character, and that everybody would have turns. And the lady that I had was trying to run an episodic adventure. I didn't really understand exactly the sorts of things that she liked. And I decided, because I had assumed that the Wizard of Oz would be a good move. And so I went with the Wizard of Oz. I included things like the Tin Man and the Lion and the Scarecrow. How's it going, Dungeons and Chronics? How are you doing? So I believe that the Scarecrow, that was basically a scarecrow that was being attacked by giant birds. I think they were giant ravens or something like that. You guys had to fight off a huge sort of wave of giant birds, which was fun to save the scarecrow so that the scarecrow could come with you. But unfortunately it didn't work out that way. I believe, didn't you guys kill off and drive off the birds and then decide that the scarecrow was just an abomination to nature, and he burnt it alive as well?
It sounds like something that Rosie would come up with.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
that the scarecrow did not survive. And I believe the Tin Man, somebody did something to the Tin Man as well. The Tin Man was stuck, so they freed the Tin Man, they had a chat with him, blah, 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 and somehow, I don't know how this misunderstanding occurred. I don't believe that it was a product of what I was doing. And suddenly, the Tin Man became a prime target. I think somebody, while everybody else was not watching, disposed of the Tin Man. You're probably starting to think murder hobos. You're probably right. Okay. During this, we also had a lion, and at this point, I don't think anything was going to survive. Like, I had the lion try to do its thing, and they's like, fine, we know what you're doing, Fred. Dead lion. Cowardly lion didn't even have a chance to run away. It's gone.
Yep.
While this is happening, I even had like little pixie vampires on a mushroom. Now the pixie vampire mushrooms wound up turning one of the characters who was already a pixie, who tried to make friends with the vampire pixies.
Rosie.
No, it was, you know who. I won't say her name. Yeah, it was the young girl. Do you remember? Starts with A. You don't remember. That's all right. It's all right. We're just going to call it Mrs. A.
Was it Rosie's friend?
No. It was Sam's friend. It wasn't.
Okay.
Yeah. So what happens is one of the characters winds up turning into a pixie vampire. We already had a vampire.
I think I remember her though.
Yeah, I'm
yeah.
sure.
I think I remember her.
We already had a vampire in the group. One of my sisters was playing a vampire. It was actually a class in 4E. And so they wound up continuing on, disposing of various individuals. I believe the pixie vampires managed to escape because pixies can use invisibility, and They can also cast a lot of things, but invisibility is a big factor. So they escaped, but they also managed to turn one of the characters into a pixie vampire, since they were already a pixie. Then they finally find the evil witch's lair, after visiting the Wizard of Oz, going on their mission, and my evil witch did not last long. I think I got to fly above the roof before you guys unloaded with so many different 4th edition powers combined and synergized at the same time that I could not cope. I could not. And when people say that 4E is a good, well-designed game, rubbish. Okay? Rubbish. Because they used to draw, I know, there was a couple of them that we used to deliberately draw 3 encounters into one just to make them harder. They would go through one door, open the door, run through the room to the other side, open that door, and because back in 4E, every room had a monster in it. And they just keep running until there were 3 rooms opened up, and they say, okay, let's go. Of course, they're already in the middle of battle.
Yeah.
And they would just make it worse and worse and worse. I think somebody even tried to up the ante and said, like, well, we can handle, we've tried 3, we've been all right, we can do 4, we can do 4. It just used to be horrible. And somebody had a special ability that allowed them to sort of like teleport a short distance so they could get past everything in the room to the other side where the door was and open it. And just keep doing that over and over again.
Yep.
So they would just all, pile on top of you as you guys just unloaded with your at-will powers, your encounter powers, your daily powers, and just obliterate everything.
Yeah.
So that was the Wizard of Oz story. Now, should I tell the story? I probably have told the story a few times, but
The death of my character, where I ascended into being an angel.
Do you remember the story?
No.
Then I honestly can't remember what that story was either. So
I just didn't want him to die.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so you did have your character turn into an angel and ascend.
Yeah.
And also wind up fighting one last battle before ascending into sort of angelhood.
Yep.
Yeah, that's right. We had you sort of retire as an angel.
Yeah. It was awesome.
So you were fighting off, I would believe it was a werewolf lord when that happened?
Yep.
Yeah. Yep, that's right. Okay. Next story I probably should tell, and I'm going to tell this one fairly quickly, and that is I had a situation where one of the characters had died, and they didn't want to finish their campaign there with the character dying. They wanted to keep playing the character. They had insisted on having an arm that was all shriveled up and have a mechanical benefit. They actually told me to put a mechanical disadvantage or penalty on the character for having an arm shriveled up. They started their character off that way, and that character died. And we wound up playing out the I think the Carriage of Death. You guys had to fight off the Carriage of Death and save him from going to hell because he was a bad boy. And that was really fun. And that took a little while. I have to say, I think some of the combats were like 2-3 hours long. That was that involved and complicated.
Yeah.
And you were playing quite high level at that point too. So I think they were like level 6 or 7 or 8 or something like that. And as soon as you get to that level, I can assure you that combat takes forever. It's so complicated. And people have got all these cards in front of them. They're trying to make decisions about what they're going to do next. And they're trying to figure out how to synergize with everybody else. So yeah, they had to fight off the carriage, the undead carriage demons and undead. I think I even took them partly through the portal into hell, where they actually had to fight off various demons. But yeah, the undead on the carriage was a fun time, definitely. If you ever wind up in a situation where a character dies and they don't want to keep playing the character, but they can't bring it back because they haven't got the right sort of magic or whatever, like it's a fun way to make that happen. Yeah, the Carriage of Death was was awesome. Oh boy, man, I've told a lot of stories. What other stories have I got that I can actually tell that I actually remember without passing out? Give me a second while I have a drink of water.
It's getting hot.
How's the
He's getting pretty much there, eh?
right? Okay, cool.
Good thing there's two of them.
Yeah, yeah. That just makes it easier, doesn't it? If there's two.
Yeah. Start all over again.
Now, David was saying that he's not going to paint the snow golem in a second day. Today is the last day of the snow golem. Okay? For those of you who are wondering, we're going to keep going. Have we decided on what you were to do next? I think we had talked about the green slard on Monday, or the ankeg, that insect creature, or the dire troll. So I mean,
something like that.
So it'll be one of those. You'll let me know when you decide.
Or it could be a dragonborn.
You want to do the dragonborn?
Dragonborn.
You mean a dragon folk?
It's dragonborn.
Well, I'm
a dragon person.
A dragon person. Remember, IP. You've got to be careful about
a
IP.
Dragon dude.
A dragon
dude.
A dragon
dude.
Humanoid.
Yeah.
Dragon humanoid. So a dragon humanoid miniature. Very, very small.
A very small dragon.
Mm-hmm.
Person.
Smaller than that one, eh?
It is.
Might be a bit hard to see.
Yeah.
People might need glasses to be able to see it, even if they're watching in 4K on the TV. Yeah. So that's sort of potentially the plan. Is what we might wind up doing is that would be the
all of them at the same time.
No, that can't happen. Oh. That's too much.
You reckon?
Yeah, I don't think that's not possible. It seems completely ridiculous.
That's what would be great about it. I'd try and paint all of them at the same time.
Right.
So we'll have them all down here, and I'll just paint a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
I'll just jump to each miniature.
Yeah.
Can I paint 4 models in 1 hour?
Probably not.
No.
No.
So I could try.
You could, but I don't think it'd go very far though.
Oh.
Yeah. So next.
Fred never likes my ideas.
I'm going to take my hat off because it's cooking on here.
It is.
So the next story. What have we got? What about Sam Hain and the werewolf nation that was fighting against the elves, the high elves?
I do remember this.
You remember the story? Okay, cool. I'll tell the story. So what had happened is there's a nation of werewolves.
Why was he called Sam Hain?
He decided to call himself Sam Hain. Okay. I don't know, honestly know. So this nation of werewolves was at war with the high elves. Now the relationship between them had been difficult, but it was under control until their current werewolf leader had been killed by somebody who had replaced him. And the replacement, well, he was quite evil and quite nasty, and he wanted to start a war. And so he started causing trouble. And the party got involved. I believe Sam Hain was playing a shifter. So not a werewolf, but kind of like a hybrid of that. And he wound up, and the party wound up, you guys failed everything. There's not a thing that you guys managed to do that was successful. It all just turned to custard. And in the end, I believe all of you, plus my brother, said, well, we absolutely have to just confront the leader and see if we can challenge him in single combat, because that's the sort of thing that the werewolf clan or nation would accept. And so you guys schemed to try to help Sam Hain in battle, and he went into single combat with the werewolf leader. Well, as it happened, things went very badly, didn't it? He almost died 4 times, and through all sorts of trickery and subterfuge and trying to sort of help out Sam Hain, the party managed to get him to live. The Dungeon Master might have helped a little bit there as well.
Yeah.
I was being a nice person that day.
Well, we were rolling badly that day.
You guys rolled like it was like the 20-sided dice only went from 1 to 2.
Yeah. And it's weird because we all did that.
Yeah, it's like the entire group managed to roll like nothing but 1s and 2s all night long.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you guys have got to stop using powers that use dice. And when you started doing that, because there were powers that you could use that didn't involve rolling dice, right?
Yeah.
You could actually hurt something by not actually hitting it.
Yeah.
It just did it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what actually seemed to work finally.
Yeah.
But also just the sheer amount of healing that you had to sink into Sam Hain to keep him alive. And he had some very cool abilities because he was a shaman.
Yeah.
In the end, the evil werewolf leader was disposed of, and then of course a replacement had to be looked at. But the problem was, like, who was going to replace the old leader? You know, that who was going to rectify the relationship between the werewolf nation and the high elf nation? That was the big problem. And in the end, I said, right now there doesn't seem to be anybody within the werewolf nation who can do this, and there's lots of infighting going on, and but they all look up to you because you were the one who was strong enough to actually defeat and take on the old leader
while rolling 1s and 2s.
Well, apparently, yeah. And so he had to make this choice basically, and that is, you could leave it and let the werewolf nation and the high elf nation go into a full-blown war and just obliterate each other, more than likely, and just go on for the war would go on for years. Or you could just step up and take on the leadership of the werewolf clan, because they will accept you, even though you are a shifter, and you can lead them. But the problem is, if you do that, then your character becomes an NPC, and you no longer get to play the character. And it was hard for him, wasn't it? It was really, really hard for him. But he did it. And this is a time when I think Sam was happy, but also really, really sad. Did he cry? I can't remember.
No.
No, but he was really, really sad. He was bummed.
Yeah, he's bummed.
He was bummed, but he also said it was like one of the best experiences he'd ever had. I remember you telling me something like that. Yeah. It was a cool situation.
Yeah.
It's not what I had planned. It's not how I had expected it to work. I honestly did not think that you guys would manage to balls up everything so badly, and I didn't even think when the crunch time, when you finally made a big decision, that you would just roll so badly on the dice that nothing was working. It was just ludicrous. It was like it was destined to fail no matter what.
Yeah.
It was weird.
Yeah.
This is one of the things I learnt with regard to running any kind of RPG, and that is that even Dungeons and Donuts, and that is, it's not a skill game. Sometimes it's more a probability game. It's gambling.
That's why I never really liked. That's one element I never really liked about those games, because I always roll bad.
Well,
I needed a character that had like passive abilities that would actually deal with the fact that I had to be so strong.
You had to be You had to have automatic abilities.
Automatic abilities,
abilities.
To counter my bad rolling, because I was so bad all the time.
Yeah, it was, and I have this problem when I'm dungeon mastering, which is why a lot of people, when I was doing public games, loved having me as a dungeon master, because I would always roll 1s and 2s, and they could never fail. Because it didn't matter what they rolled in their dice, because that's probably going to be better than a 1 or a 2.
Yeah.
And they used to make jokes about it. Hi Dan, how's it going? Dan is a patron. He's also a moderator. Thank you for being here. Yeah, late to the party. That's all right. You can be late to the party, mate. I know it's going to be quite late where you are, so totally understand. And you've got a business to operate. You know, there's things to be done, and sorted out. So that is the story of Sam Hain. Should I tell the story about the flying ship you guys had and the zombie dragon with the I think it was a necromancer lord, basically. Do you remember that?
That was my favourite.
That's your
favourite.
favourite.
That's why it always stays in my memory, that one.
Yeah, it was crazy. So at some point, the group had acquired themselves a ship which they used to use to fly around the world. One day they eventually realised they could just fly away from the world completely to another planet, and that's when things really got interesting.
Yep.
But no, they were dealing with it started off with a small village. The land was just being inundated by undead.
Yes.
You know, the worst. You know, it's your cliche. You know, zombies rising from the dead, stuff like that. But
it was a medieval zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, it was essentially that, exactly. And it seemed to be, the origin seemed to be coming from a particular village, and this is where the necromancer lord was operating. And boy, oh boy, did I have a good time throwing stuff at them. You guys fought all sorts of things in droves, didn't you not?
Well, the thing is, I painted that dragon and I wanted it to be used. And
Yep.
you're like, no, you know, it's big and you guys are still a certain level. And, you know, I was like, oh, but I painted it. I spent so long painting it. And he's like, oh, okay.
That's exactly...
And that was the problem as well.
That was very much the problem, is that David...
We were not really strong enough to take
You
on
weren't
something
strong enough
that
really
big.
to deal with it. So I thought you guys would just sort of, you know, have an encounter on your ship. It would fly up, had the Necromancer Lord on top, do a couple of strafing runs, and that would be it.
Yeah.
Of course, that is not what the player group did. As soon as the dragon was close enough, it started with just one. And it's like a virus. It spread to almost everybody else in the entire ship and party.
Mm-hmm.
So there's, 6 of you playing this game at this present time?
Yeah.
I don't remember. Was it you that I think it was you you started this.
Yeah.
You jumped off with your sword and plunged it into the dragon.
I did.
And you tried to fight it while it was flying around, and tried to battle the Necromancer Lord at the same time.
Yeah.
And everybody else saw you do it, and you did it successfully. I mean, you managed to roll high enough. You managed to plunge the sword in.
Yeah, I did actually. I got the sword in there. That's
You
right.
managed to hold on.
Yeah.
And then the entire party launched themselves off the ship into mid-air, trying to land on this dragon that's flying around.
It was a Mission Impossible moment. It was fun. Tom Cruise.
No, they fell.
Yeah, well,
They fell.
I was Tom Cruise.
Well, you're the only one on the dragon. Everybody else is free-falling now.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
only one person left on the ship that was smart enough to stay put.
Yeah.
And so we had one person trying to fly the ship fast enough down to catch the people who were falling towards the ground.
Yeah.
We had somebody else who was trying to use their special abilities and magic to actually teleport somebody who was falling beside them, grab hold of them, and then teleport them back to the ship if they could while it was swooping down. Had somebody else who was trying to figure out how to, do I have time to cast something like Fly or Featherfall or something like that so that they didn't die.
Yeah.
There was somebody else who was trying to figure out if they could I think somebody even tried a rope and a grappling hook and tried to hurl it, sort of lasso the dragon's leg, the zombie dragon's leg while they were falling. It got mad. I can't remember how many different things they tried as they were falling to their death. Did anybody die? I think somebody did. Somebody did land, and they took like 200 and something hit points worth of damage. It was you were highish level, mid-level range, but that was a bit much.
Moral of the story.
Moral of the story:
don't follow Dave into battle.
Don't jump off the ship at a zombie dragon.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's that thing. Is if someone tells you to jump off a bridge. Don't jump off the bridge.
Yeah, don't jump off a flying ship.
No.
Somebody tells says you should give it a go.
Or if somebody does it.
Or if somebody does it and they succeed, doesn't mean you will.
No.
Yeah, everybody else is going to wind up going down.
Yeah.
So so some crazy stuff. I think they managed to get most of them either back on the dragon, but mostly back into the ship. Fly the ship back up while you're fighting this thing, and you were doing all right to begin with, but it was getting tough on your own, a bit hard to manage, right?
Yeah. Because they're very powerful.
So, do they wind up trying it again, or do they just ram the ship into the dragon and then leap onto the dragon to help you? I can't remember.
I think we did ram it actually.
I think there was some sort of ramming going on. I can't remember exactly.
Yeah.
Somebody had decided that there was no more leaping going on. We need to make sure we park the flying ship on the dragon. Of course, flying ship. You park it on a dragon, it falls along with the ship falling. So there's a lot of crazy stuff going on at that point. You like that story? Keep rolling those ones. Yeah,
I did.
Yeah,
I always did.
I
was pro at that.
So many ones. Yeah, it got out of hand. I believe that you guys actually did succeed. Did you not?
I do.
Yeah. So Joe, most of my party thought it was a very good idea. Yeah, they all wanted to do it. Just apart from one person, probably the oldest and most mature and sensible person in the group. He didn't jump off. No, he flew the ship and tried to save everybody if he could. Although he wasn't. Yeah, one person did die. Yeah. But I believe you guys finally did defeat the zombie dragon and the necromancer lord, and bring an end to the apocalypse, which was the zombie plague, basically, or the undead. It was more an undead plague rather than a zombie plague, because there were skeletons and all sorts of things.
It was.
It was all undead sort of stuff. Yeah.
All necromancy.
So, yeah, that's another one of my my stories that I have.
Ship quest was the best ever. Having a flying ship that can go into outer space and travel to different worlds.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic.
Yeah, like Spelljammer.
Spelljammer.
Or
Fantastic.
Oh, spell smeller.
Spell smeller.
Or smeller jammer.
Smeller jammer.
Smeller jammer. Got to be careful we don't use IP. Smeller jammer. Smeller jammer. So yeah, or is it? Yeah.
Peanut butter and jelly.
Yeah.
Space witch.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Jim Jam job.
Yeah.
So that was that. Do you remember that you guys at one point were adamant that you needed to have a flying castle? You wanted a home base that was a flying castle, and you went searching for one.
I think partly that was Rosie's idea because we'd watched that Howl's Moving Castle movie.
No, but that was also Miss A's idea and a few others.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was to do with that movie though, because I like the idea of a castle that could move around.
Yeah, exactly. And you guys went searching for a flying castle. You gave me quite a hard time about not actually providing you with a flying castle. I said, I gave you a flying ship. What's the big deal? What are you on?
Yeah.
And so they finally found a giant. I think it was a storm giant or something like that.
Yeah.
It had a flying castle. They decided to assault it so they could take it over. It's not like you're going to go in and have a chat with them. You guys would just. So some of you transformed, polymorphed into dragons. I think there was 2 of you who did this, and carried the rest up to the flying castle.
Yeah.
But the flying castle is full of catapults, ballistas, and various giants hurling rocks at you.
Yeah.
So many, actually, in fact, that they got pummeled, knocked off the dragons. The people who'd been polymorphed into dragons took so much damage that they wound up falling to their deaths.
Not to mention, but one of the people that turned into dragons rolls ones regularly.
Oh, that's true. That was bad. So it was just a big hail of punishment that you guys went through, and I think at that point things started to come adrift. You've heard of
Jam Spammer,
Jam Spammer. Yeah, that's the one, Jam Spammer. So that flying castle that never wound up in the hands of the player characters, unfortunately, but they did wind up with about half the party dying. But they're also a high enough level that they could bring most of them back to life.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, we died, but it's a temporary problem.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? It's not a big deal. As soon as you get to a certain point when you're playing Dungeons and Donuts, death is just
another journey.
Yeah, it's just another journey. It's just a slight side quest.
Yeah, side quest usually. Yeah, that's right.
Side quest often, or it's like a rest time. It's like a holiday. It's like a enforced holiday.
I do remember our games. When it was come time to have the rest at the end before we'd stop for the night. It was exhausting by that point.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, guys, you want to go? No, we'll rest.
Yeah.
And just rest and recover.
Yeah. Because you guys would burn through.
So everything we had every time we played.
Well, it's the problem. The problem was that every time that we were playing, this was 4E, right? So every time you guys went up another level, trying to figure out how to make it difficult for you guys was actually really hard. So I didn't know what else to do other than just crank things up.
But then you didn't counter for the fact that we actually made things difficult for ourselves.
Yes, you guys.
Most of the time.
Some of the times your plans were awful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Funny but awful.
Funny, like super funny.
Yeah.
Like really, really entertaining.
But that's the thing. We did it as a comedy factor a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Like what would be funny, and then when we actually did the thing and we were like, oh, that was probably not worth the joke.
Well, do you?
And then you were like, yeah, no, I'm gonna make you punish you guys for this one.
Yeah. Do you remember? Yeah, but you guys didn't. If anything, you guys actually caused more trouble. Do you remember the plot twist cards that I used to give out?
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
And you remember how you guys insisted that just getting a plot twist card as a reward wasn't good enough, that everybody should get one at the very beginning of the session?
Yes, that's right.
And then you said 1 is not enough, we want 3.
Yes.
And then when I would go off to the toilet, you guys would scheme and try to figure out how to use them all at once.
Yes.
It was you used to try to break me so many times.
Yeah.
Do you remember the undead kraken? Do you remember I had a kraken attack you?
Yeah.
And you guys managed to get to the land, and it was dead. And then somebody decided to play the card and bring it back to life as an undead kraken.
Yes, I remember.
And then there was a fight, and I think, oh good, it's finally back because somebody's actually turned it. You guys used to use those cards initially as just a like a trump card.
Yeah.
And then later on, you used to just use it to mess with everybody else in the party and yourselves,
And change the story.
and
in
just
some
make
way.
make things just utterly nuts.
Yeah.
I don't know. Am I Tom or am I Jerry? Or are you Tom or are you Jerry? I don't know. Which one is it?
Oh, that's a good point. I don't know.
I don't know. I think this is where this is the plot twist cards was when people definitely once I said, okay, I'm not using the plot twist cards if you always use it
If we
as
go
a
back to
benefit.
that sort of scenario, then I am Jerry.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Okay, so the reality is that they used to use those cards to basically just mess with me. That those plot twist cards got used to mess with me many times, but also they used to mess with each other constantly.
Well, some of them did backfire
They did
because sometimes I couldn't quite understand what they meant,
Yeah,
and then I used it and found out after I used it what it meant, and was like, oh no.
yeah. So Joe, I think that both of us could be Tom or Jerry.
Yeah.
There's definitely bickering. Look, I don't know. Well,
Not off.
I actually had to write up a social contract to deal with that sort of thing, so that didn't happen. It wasn't too bad. There's always, when you're dealing with people that haven't played together, it takes time to become friends and get to know each other and actually sort of suck it up a bit. You know what I mean? You have to deal with the fact that there's will be some people doing things in the group that you don't like, and the dungeon master's going to make calls you don't like. There were times when I made calls and you guys didn't like what I decided to do.
But also, especially with us, just such different personalities
Oh well, also
in one party.
yeah, and talk about trying to throw a spanner in the works. But the undead kraken was funny because once they had used the card to turn it into an undead kraken, so they had to fight it again since it had got demolished the first time, and now had the undead fortitude, which is I was like, oh, so happy about this. It's an undead creature. I can give it a few more attributes. Awesome. So what did they do? One of them did nothing, just stood there and let everybody fight the kraken, the undead kraken. And then once, I think, was it this round 2?
Yeah.
They said, I cast polymorph on the undead kraken, and they turned it into a worm, stuck it in a jar, put the lid on it, and then tossed it into the ocean. And it floated away. And I was like, oh, you got to be kidding. What's that, Dan? Plot twist cards. Tell us about them. What was on them? Like everything under the sun. I've got lessons that cover that. I've got videos that talk about plot twist cards. I don't think that I can talk about everything in those plot twist cards because I've done it so many times before. I'm going to lose my voice.
We push that to the extreme. Like three cards each before you even start as a what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Because of what we do with these cards, or save up the card. Because sometimes we did save the cards for situations.
Yeah, you did. Yeah. And I think that was one of the things that you guys decided. I said you had to use it during the session. You guys wanted to bank them. And after a while, you guys just had this great, huge, clear envelope full of these things. And I was like, this is getting some silly. Yeah. And I was like, okay. So what used to happen is if somebody would say something, play a card, and they would tell me, I think initially you guys used to just play the card and say, oh, no, you have to make up something that's related to the card. And I said, no, I'm not doing that. You have to do it. You have to present me with an idea using the card.
Right, yes, we did.
Because it was putting too much stress and strain on me.
Yeah.
And so as a product of that, I forced the players to come up with ideas. If I didn't like the idea, I would change it slightly and then present it to them to see if they were all right with that. If they didn't like that, I would take the card and get them to draw a new card.
Yeah.
And so I still had some control over the situation, but it made the adventures totally unpredictable for you guys and for me. We didn't know what anybody was going to do from week to week.
Yeah.
It was just chaos.
Yeah. It definitely was one of those ones where you'd try and plan an adventure out for that night.
Yeah.
But you had to be totally prepared for complete randomness.
Yeah, because you just
change the story even.
Yeah, you didn't know what I was going to have to adapt to. You didn't know what anybody. In fact, if anything, we
didn't even know what each other were going to do.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
I mean, honestly, I felt like the players at that point were now we're now presenting the threats and conflicts and the things that would drive the adventure.
Because we almost got to the point where we'd sabotage each other.
Yeah, you did. And
with those cards.
It's like everybody else was the dungeon master, and I just had to figure out how to make it work.
Yeah.
What's that? Teacher. What's that, Mum? Actually, overboard they dodge between both. We do. We are a dodge. We're quite dodgy, actually, as it happens.
Yeah, you are dodgy.
Yeah, dodgy. If you really want me to, I can probably find an Amazon link to plot twist cards. But if you want to know more about it, you'll find most of it on my channel, because I've talked about them quite a lot. I talk about plot twist cards in the is it DM or game master preparation,
the thingamajiggy.
The thingamajiggy, yeah. And the what is it? The donut master preparation live stream that's called improvising, learning to improvise. Learning to improvise covers plot twist cards. You can be sure you can find that. I've run it a few times, and you'll find that I talk about them there. But I have actually just purpose-built videos that are edited that are on plot twist cards that talk, briefly how to go about using them as well. I'll see if I can pull up and find plot twist cards on Amazon and chuck a link in there for people if they're interested. The few people that are here. All right, you want to tell people what you're doing here?
Painting snow.
Is that it?
It is what there's snow. There's snow dudes.
Yeah.
Snow dudes.
Well, yes.
So I'm painting snow onto them.
No, into the microphone.
I'm painting snow onto them.
Can you type in plot twist card?
Yeah.
Twist card. There it is. Oh, they're a bit more expensive than they used to be. I don't know how easy they are to get nowadays, but this will be an Amazon affiliate link. Okay. If people want to, if they really want to chase it down, they can. If they don't want to, then don't. That's cool too. And this is it here. Okay, done.
There's David painting each individual here. Well, no, because there's snow monsters, so they don't have here.
They have little bits of detail that you're trying to pick out.
So
you're painting the high areas and leaving the lower areas, right?
Yeah, because I want to keep the colour, the undercolour.
Yeah.
So yeah, I suppose I could have used a wash, but a wash wouldn't go all different colours.
Right.
So I painted it, and then I sort of paint the high areas with the snowy sort of stuff over top, and I sort of do thin layers and build it up so it looks a little bit transparent because it's supposed to be snow.
Right.
And that's the technique I'm using for these dudes. So I'm using like a ivory.
Ivory. Okay.
Using the ivory for the snow colour.
You're welcome, Dan. So what was I going to say too? That is, by the way, that is an American Amazon affiliate link. So if you're not using American, which you won't be, Dan, you'll have to go through a different one, unfortunately.
But at least you know what the cards look like.
Yeah, you know what it looks like. Yeah. We're past the hour mark. Do you want to stop or do you want to keep going, dude? I know we're not coming back to paint this again. So do you want to just keep going while I try to keep talking, or do you want to?
Is there more news about the OGL? There's new videos every day.
Well, there's a lot of. I'll tell you what. We could probably talk a little about the OGL. I wanted to avoid the OGL just because it's so doom and gloom. What I wanted to say to people, I don't want you to worry too much, okay? Because you can be assured that people are going to be making non-OGL content. They'll be making game systems that don't have the OGL. They'll strip everything out about the OGL. There are so many creators right now. I am one of those people who are encouraging people to do it. There are creators who are making new game systems. There are people who be making retro clones galore that don't use OGL wording. So the problem is you can't copyright game rules. And so as a result of that, I can assure you that what's probably going to wind up happening is you're going to see a huge number of game systems being released, probably for free, that get built really fast, and they are so similar to Dungeons and Dragons that people can transition to them very easily. Yeah,
that's a smart idea.
Yeah,
they're gonna have to do something because from what you told me this morning, it sounds like Wizards of the Coast is actually a sinking ship and it's going down.
We'll see. We'll see. And in any case, I don't want to talk about the OGL. I'll talk about the OGL when there's something to actually really say, because there's so many people doing that right now. Let's go back to storytelling, since you're going to keep painting by the looks.
Yeah, I suppose.
Okay, so I'm actually getting quite warm in here, so I'm going to have to make myself a little bit more comfortable so I can survive the process. Oh boy! All right. So, yes, stories that we could tell about what we have done in the past.
I would like, because I always go on about it, I would like to hear some Rosie Tosie stories.
You want some?
Because she did some funny stuff.
Do you remember any of them?
Not really. It was mostly thievery stuff though, and she almost sabotaged us a few times to get just to get stuff.
Well, we're not gonna refer to her name, okay?
Okay, Tosie Pose.
No.
No Tosie Pose?
No, just keep painting. We're not doing that. But we can refer to a person in the group who used to...
A vampire.
Yes, playing a vampire. You stop. Okay, so it's not going to... No, David has never been a game master, ever.
No.
No, that's not really... David's really not that heavy into that sort of thing, and you've never been into rules that much. It's one of the things it was a bit of a problem. Forey was a bit of a hassle.
You can actually explain how hard it was for me to actually play Dungeons and Dragons, because playing the game in the roleplay, not so hard, but the mechanics and having to understand how to even create a character, I struggled with a lot.
Yeah, and this the part of the problem was, what's Joey saying? So David struggled with Forey, and even with the cards and reading off the cards, it was so alien to him. And so the only thing you could really do today was just play a character. But even playing a character was really hard work for you. You needed a lot of help.
Yeah.
And what's this, Joe? How will we use miniatures?
How will we use miniatures? How will we use miniatures we already have?
What do you mean? You just use your miniatures.
Yeah.
I'm not going to. It doesn't matter what game system you're using. You just keep using your miniatures. It doesn't matter. If you don't have a stat block for it, you just make one. So the lady in our group, one of my sisters, what would happen is there would be a fight that would break out. Every time there was a fight that would break out, instead of fighting the monsters, she would just run off and then start opening doors and searching through them for treasure.
Yeah, the problem was she was quite one of the most powerful ones in the party.
Yes, she was.
So when we headed into a fight, we needed her.
Yes.
And she was gone.
Yeah.
Looking for anything. She wanted weapons and rings and treasures and magical items and.
Yep. And Forey was one of those games where there was just treasure everywhere.
She was a hoarder.
Yeah, she was. And oh my gosh, she was. It was like it's like she was just chasing some sort of addiction. Magic items were just a big thing for her.
Yeah.
And of course, Forey was built to come across multiple magic items. You would find a lot of magic items in that game.
Yeah.
Because you had to have magic items to play Forey, otherwise you really couldn't keep up.
Yeah.
Although now that I think about it, maybe if you didn't have the magic items, you wouldn't actually have been quite so powerful. It would have been a bit easier for me to manage.
Yes.
Not to mention, if you've got like 8 to 10 magic items dripping off you, there's a lot of different things going on all at once.
Yeah.
It gets really complicated. So it was kind of daft. So this is actually one of the reasons why I'm going to have a go after my holiday at building a role-playing game, which is so similar to Dungeons and Dragons but doesn't break their copyright or use the OGL. And I was talking to David before. I was going to call it the Phoenix RPG, as in the rising from the ashes. Mm-hmm. The Phoenix rises from death. That's what I want to call it, as a code name. I don't know what
Queen of the Harpies.
Queen of the Harpies. Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
That particular person's character.
I think Queen of the Vampires. I don't know what else to call. Yeah.
She created interesting situations. That's for sure. There's a channel on YouTube called How to Harpies.
Yeah, so to be fair, when I started my channel, a lot of my family and my friends were watching my videos, but nowadays they really don't give a toss. which is fair enough because I make a lot of stuff, and also too, it's too highbrow. Do you know what I mean?
I was just, you know,
You just wanted to play.
Fred got me into. It goes all the way back to Hero Quest and Space Crusade, and so we played Warhammer and we played Warhammer 40,000 for quite a long time. I was used to that too much, which is just a army versus an army or a small squad versus a small squad, and you're just rolling dice to take things down.
Yeah.
To create characters and how powers work and skill stats and all this stuff, it was like, oh my, this is so much mathematics in my head. I couldn't cope with it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I really struggled with that. I really did. And Fred had to help me every time I wanted to do a character. That's why it was probably a good thing. Like, you know, he was like, "Don't create a new character. We'll just, you know," because every time Fred would have to help me. He was like, "I don't have time for this. You know, I've got to sort the game."
Yeah, and I actually subscribe to an online service called Dungeons and Donuts Insider, and you guys used to use the online character builder to build characters.
Yeah.
You guys used to love that. I think when I finally ended the game, I was going insane, and you guys were loving it, and just wanted to keep going. And I was like, I can't cope anymore. It's too much.
Yeah.
And you know, there's so much going on. So one of the things I wanted to do is I wanted to take the dice mechanics.
I'm just going to go and relieve myself.
Yeah, you go do that,
I'll be back in a
and
second.
I will change position while you're or will I change position? I'll just keep talking. So yeah, what is basically my intention, or should I turn on the camera? Nah, I'm not going to do that because it creates more heat. What's that, Overboard? 9th edition of 4K is really heavy right now. Yeah, I won't be going back to Warhammer 40K. I hate to say it, I won't be going back to Warhammer tabletop games because it never gave me what I needed to have, you know, which was I wanted more people that were friends. And roleplay games and Dungeons and Donuts did that. You know, because I played Fate, I played Bulldogs, I played Star Wars Saga. You guys are probably going to see a whole bunch of Star Wars Saga. It's not in print anymore, so it's not going to make Wizards of the Coast rich because they don't make those anymore. They can't legally. It's, you know, so and you can probably get everything that you want for free off the internet if you wanted to play that game. So I'll probably talk a lot about Star Wars in the future, and of course Dark Heresy and a few other things, and still, you know, Dungeons and Donuts. But I kind of have to build something that I can talk about, so I have to build my own rule system. So the idea was I take the simple dice mechanic of a D20 or a 20-sided dice, and I use ability checks of some kind or attribute checks, a saving throw or a save of some kind. Use something like an attack roll, okay, an attack roll or an attack with a 20-sided dice. These are things that you can't actually stamp and say this is my IP. Can't do that. Something like re-rolling dice mechanics, absolutely not a problem. Some sort of turn order for combat, that's really all that needs to be there. And frankly, at that point, I don't think there's anything else that needs to be built. Now, you're probably thinking, well, Fred, what about Dungeons and Dragons? I struggle with character name and background.
I did too, actually.
So the other aspect is, I mean, creating a name for your character is not something you can copyright. You know, giving your character a name. So whatever I build in about a week or so's time is going to be around having a super simple system, which I've always said that they should make and they're not. I'm going to build it myself. Instead of waiting till 2024, it's going to happen now because everybody's building one now. And it will be completely compatible with basic Dungeons and Donuts. It'll be compatible with 2E, 3E probably, maybe even some of 4E and 5E. And if you wind up playing the new version of the game, it's probably going to be compatible with that. And the reason why it will be compatible with them is because when I put in an entry, you know, this is the bit that used to cause you the most trouble, right? It wasn't the core dice mechanics, right? The problem was when we had to deal with race abilities. Yep. So what's this? Hi, Todd. Todd is our patron. What have you got here? My favourite name to use is
Dingus McSharp.
Dingus McSharp. Oh, cool. I like it. Nice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in an entry that says race, species, or playable creature type. And it is basically going to give you the option to do a couple of different things. You can just create the name of your own species and what it looks like, and that's it. You can create a little bit of lore for it if you wanted to, whether that's third party or you homebrew it, or the player just creates that with sign off from the dungeon master, and it's all just flavor and story stuff. So it's super simple. You know, it's a couple of lines, you write and you're done, and you've got your own race that you can play if you want to.
Cool.
It could be anything.
That's cool.
Utterly anything. Now, there will be a provision in there that says you can also, with your the game master, not dungeon master, game master, you can create some sort of game mechanics that give you, you know, disadvantage, some sort of penalty or benefit for playing that race. If you want to have that there, you don't have to. That's optional. And then there's another entry underneath that for race, species, or playable creature type, which means you can actually play monsters as well. There's going to be an entry that says you can port any race, species, system, or mechanics from a different game and plug it into this, as long as it uses a D20, okay? And its rule system is similar enough, not necessarily exactly the same, but similar enough to Dungeons and Donuts. You don't even necessarily need to have a core rule system that has 6 abilities or 6 attributes. They don't even need to necessarily be exactly like the the ones that are described by Dungeons and Donuts. They don't necessarily have to be strength, dexterity, intelligence, you know, constitution, charisma, wisdom. They don't necessarily have to be those. They could be called something else. So you just plug in whatever race, species, playable creature type you want, and it's done.
That's so
And
cool.
you could play it with the absolute core rules, which means the core rules will probably be just a few pages long, which also means that it can be built really fast. And then I'll do exactly the same thing with class. So when it comes to playing a character class, even if I can't call it character class, I can call it hero class, I can call it adventurer class, I can call it you know, hero type or adventurer type. That's it. So you create the name of your character class, you put together whatever it is, and just briefly what it is that you basically your character class is, and what it does well or doesn't do well. And if you want to have mechanics for it, then you have a discussion with your dungeon master and you build that yourself. It also means that it deliberately means that third parties will be able to build stuff for it without having to worry too much about any of that sort of stuff. Does that make sense?
Oh, that's cool.
Okay, and then of course a lot of people will be attached to existing game mechanics from other games. Doesn't matter whether it's Castles and Crusades or anything. It doesn't even matter if it's Dungeons and Donuts. Any version of that, you could plug and play, just pour it straight into there and use that if you wanted to.
That's amazing.
Now, you're probably thinking, that doesn't seem like that's feasible. But the thing is, the less rules you have, the more you can do that. The more you can homebrew it. That means that with a very simple core rule system, I'm not a game designer, but I know enough to know that the more rules you have, the more you paint yourself into a corner. No pun intended, even though right now David is painting. So that means...
Paint down in the corner here?
No, no, I'm only kidding. I'm only kidding. And so that means that with a very simple core rule system, you could decide to overlay something like the Dungeons and Donuts backgrounds or the Pathfinder ancestries or whatever the heck it is that they're currently calling it. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be origins. I mean, you could even make up your own and have that there if you wanted to. Okay? Overboards. Brawn, smarts, charm, power, memory, agility. Like, so we'll go over like how to. So what I will do when I build the system is I will just use everything. I will just do literally like a retro clone, but I will make sure all the wording can be changed if I have to, and then I will release it. I was I'm going to attempt to release it on Patreon as part of the benefits of being a patron, and you pay. But no, I'll make it free. I'm a little on the frustrated side, so I will make it free, and everything you want to attach to that, That's where you may find yourself having to go and sign up for Patreon for those things. I am also going to consider making it available to other publishers so that they can just release it for free as part of a package with whatever that's currently selling.
Cool.
With the intent that it spread. Like, as soon as you provide a game system that people are fairly familiar with and it's free and you don't have to pay for it, wow. You can't tell me that won't work. I feel like that might well work. I don't have the reach, but I know enough people in the community now that I might have a bit more of an impact. And there's a lot of people thinking this way. Okay. The other thing is, you're probably thinking, well, what about feats? Well, whether they're called feats or talents or traits or whatever it is, you could call it anything. Those are things you can create as options to build into whatever because there is no set race, class, feats. There are no set spells. There are, even the spells, you make up your own spells. That's if you're doing magic, you make up your own spells. I'll build everything around templates so that people can see how they can go about building. I'll even add in a class to the Game Master preparation that shows people how to build their own classes or adventurer types, how to make their own races, and if that works, then I'll expand it to a couple of other things. I just don't want to make the program too long, so it takes a long time to get through everything. So I will do all of that. I want people to have templates so they can just go and make their own stuff. You've got the template, you plug and play what you want in there, and you're ready to go. And whether you wind up taking it from an existing game or you create it completely whole and fresh of your own, I don't mind. I'm not worried about that. So that is where my head is at. And it also means the core rules can be expanded on, because if you have really simple core rules, you can attach and apply and port in any kind of rule that you like as a variant rule into the system. So if you want it to be a lot more complicated and crunchy, you can. But if you want to run it with a really young person, say in there, who's only 5, and all they're capable of doing is adding whatever's on the dice with another number, you can do that. In fact, I will even, if you've got kids that can't do that and all they can manage is just roll the dice and take the result off that, I will even make a version, if I have to, for kids that just has them rolling the dice and they just take the number off the dice. And there's no modifier to add, so it's super easy for them to actually do. It makes it much easier for parents to run. It also means that it opens up the door for anybody who wants super complex rules as well, because it's so simple. And it's designed specifically to be homebrewed and to be added to. What do you reckon?
I like it.
You like it?
Yep.
So, I'm not kidding when I say that the reality of writing a new RPG, I have every intentions of this being ready to go very quickly. As I said, I think it may take me anywhere from 1 day to 2 days to write it, and then I will stick it up on my Patreon for free, and that's a rock. Are they throwing a snowball?
Throwing a snowball.
Yeah, so is that one going to be a lot
darker?
Darker?
Yep.
Darker in colour or lighter in colour?
Darker, because he's purple.
So are you going to make the snowball more white, or is it going to be...
You want me to make it whiter?
What do you reckon? I think maybe that it should be
whiter than him?
Yeah, because it makes kind of more sense that he is quite sort of dark in colour, because it's like, it's a
magical
golem
thing.
Yeah. So that's the plan, is to give you templates for everything with a super simple core rule system. I will do this live when I get back from my holidays. I will start early in the morning. I will take a couple of breaks, of course, probably every hour or something like that, and I will show you as I build it. And since I'm just backward engineering everything and then chucking in different terminology, if just in case I have to, and changing the wording so that it's my wording and not somebody else's, because that's one of the biggest issues, you can be assured that you will be able to play whatever you want to play, and it'll be fine. So yes, and it also means that anybody who's been trying to play with their kids will probably find it super easy. So a lot of my Friday feature time slots are going to be designated to doing that until it's done. and we'll see how the mighty wizard copes with that. And I enjoy watching them squirm, because there's going to be a lot of people doing this right now, and we're all trying to help each other out, do new systems, and they're all probably going to look very similar. Good luck dealing with that as a development. So yeah. Going to be an interesting year, 2023. I never thought that this would necessary, but it's absolutely necessary. No matter what happens, it has to be done, because one of the important factors of that open game license is I'll try to plant a license on it as well, but I will make sure the wording locks it down so that it cannot be changed, and it cannot be revoked. And it cannot be modified in any shape or form whatsoever, with its sole intent not to protect any IP, because nothing I put in there will be IP, will be something you can copyright or plant an IP on, because it won't have any of that. I'll just remove all of that. Its intent will never be to have some of it there for you to use as open source, and some of it is going to be protected by some sort of franchise. That's not what it is. That's not my intention. So I don't know what it'll be called, but yeah, I'll make sure it fills in all the gaps, so we can play what we want to play.
And now we're finished.
And you're finished. Do you want to show off what you've done?
A snowman and a snowman.
they're actually snow golems.
Snow golems. Are you allowed to say snow golem?
Yeah, golem is not IP.
Okay, there's snow golems. And one's a little bit darker than the other one.
Yeah.
But it's a little more purpley.
Yeah.
Magical characters, so I thought, having a little more colour under there would be cool. And one's throwing a giant, big, huge snowball.
Yep. So one of the things if you weren't aware, no, they look really good. Thank you, David, for doing that.
Alright.
Would you wash those or leave them as they are?
If I wash them, then I have to paint them again.
Which you don't want to do. No. And so, do you reckon that it's just matte finish after that?
Yep.
Matte finish. Okay, so super simple, super easy. I mean, and also too, when you're doing it, it's not like you can make a mistake, eh? No.
Definitely no.
No, it's not like you can make a mistake doing this.
You can have someone talking to you the whole time.
Yeah.
And you can still pull it off.
You can still pull it off. 'Cause there's no major detail that you need to be absolutely sure that you put paint on in the right place.
Technically, I could have dry brushed these all, but I was just painting them on the thin coat way. Because it's just a bit different.
Yep.
But you could just actually dry brush them there.
Yeah, it would be a lot faster than what we've been doing.
Way faster.
Way faster.
Yeah, you probably have these done in like 10 minutes.
Yeah, more than likely.
Yep.
Yeah. And and I suppose then you could wash them and then go back over if you needed to on the.
Well,
on
if
the
you're
high
doing
res.
that, if you're doing dry brushing, then it wouldn't matter.
Yeah.
Because you just wash it, the next day it'll be dry, and then dry brush it.
Yeah.
Or you can use a hairdryer to dry it out.
Yeah, something like that. Okay, all right. So let's sign ourselves out of here. I'll get you to do the chat into here while I grab the scenes.
Yep. Okay. So we're finishing up. We've got there's so many monsters. So Fred will put a thumbnail up. Once I've decided, I'll decide this weekend, and he'll have it up before Monday, of what the next thing is going to be that I'm going to paint, and we'll start again on Monday.
Okay, I got it almost done. I make sure I stick your link in. Here it is. So this is David's channel.
That it is.
And okay, all right. I'm coming around. Okay, here we go. So I just want to thank all of my patrons who have continued to support me, even though I haven't really been able to release very much recently since I've been sick and I'm on holiday and so forth. I really do appreciate the fact that you've been very patient about the whole thing. I can assure you that it'll be worth the support. I really will be doing quite a lot this year, probably far more than I should have. Let's just hope I don't break myself, because that's also possible, which is why I have to take a break every 4 months, otherwise I can't cope. But really, thank you for my patrons. Thank you to everybody who's been part of the live stream and been chatting with me and been watching. It's really good that you're able to sort of be here. I don't want you to get down and out about anything, because I can assure you, you're going to get a lot of videos that are not doom and gloom from me over the next few weeks and into the future. Just going to make it, I'm just going to give you the tools you need. Yeah. Thank you for watching my edited videos, and also for putting up with my shorts videos. I know they're frustrating, but I kind of have to do them. Thank you, David, for being here.
You're welcome.
You're so far away, nobody can hear you.
They can hear me, I'm sure. I can assure you.
Okay. But yeah, thank you. And we'll be back next week in about 2 days.
2 days.
2 days.
Monday.
Yep.
2 days.
Yeah, we're back in 2 days. We're going to take Saturday and Sunday off in New Zealand, and then we'll be back then. So, wherever you are in the world, whether it be the morning, the afternoon, the night, or the wee early morning, please look after yourself, your family, and your friends. Be nice to your neighbours. Have a good time ringing, emailing, and so forth. Wizards of the Coast, D&D Beyond, and Hasbro. I will try to make sure I can find all the information you need so you can contact them and say whatever you need to say to them. Okay. Have a good time. Don't give the staff at Wizards of the Coast who do the design stuff a hard time. This is definitely a CEO sort of move, whatever's going on, because I can assure you in 2 days you're going to see a very humorous thumbnail for the next project that we're going to work on, and I will bring as much craziness as I possibly can to that stream.
Nice.
Don't you worry. Okay, so hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s. Thank you, Mum. I think it'll work.